This year's theme is Cultivating Equitable Education Systems for the 21st Century. It was inspired by what feels to me like a pressing need in education in a very unique socio-historical moment. I think we're in a time where the inadequacy of continuing to perpetuate our inequitable social and educational systems is apparent. Continuing a system where your race and zip code is a defining factor in the quality of education you receive will lead to the dismantling of our democracy. There is not a more important issue for us to take up as a research community right now than for us to lean into how we contribute to cultivating equitable education systems. And the time is ripe for us to do so. Arguably, we've seen more change to education systems in the last year than in the 100 years before it. So we know that systems can change. And then the question is not whether systems can change. The question is, how will they change? And will they change in the service of equity and the public good? What's the role of the research community? I hope that this theme accomplishes several things. One, I hope this theme helps us deepen our commitment to using our work, our scholarship, in the service of creating and sustaining equitable education systems. Two, I hope we find new ways to work together across disciplines, across subfields, across methodological traditions. We need all of us to work effectively on the pressing problems of education. Three, I hope we continue to evolve how we work with practitioners. There's been great work in past years on this, and the way in which we incorporate and respect the great work of practitioners in creating equitable education systems is truly key. And four, I hope the theme in the 2022 Place-Based meeting in San Diego supports us in being together in community, thinking together, laughing together, breaking bread together, learning together. It is certainly true that we can't do this work without the teachers, administrators, higher education practitioners, early childhood teachers, community-based organizations, families, and so many others who are doing the work to change our systems so that they serve students and communities in authentic, rigorous, and humane ways. And importantly, this work requires us as scholars of education to be different, to work differently, to care more proactively, to deepen the ways in which our research is informed by the needs of practice and policy, to be humble in what we know, how we know it, and how we share it. To know that we're building on generations of scholarship of others before us. I think we're in a sea change moment, not only in education generally, given all of the disruption and reconfiguring in schools and learning spaces, but also as a field, as scholars of education. And that sea change is about holding ourselves accountable to making systems better in the service of equity. We need to have the courage to engage with a kind of radical imagination to create new systems, to open the space for an ethic and practice in education that sees education as a human right, as a social good, as a community strength. This will require us facing the ways in which school spaces can be alienated and rooted in problematic ideologies and practices that deepen the social and racial divide. And it will require us to move beyond political rhetoric into a real commitment to reinvesting in formal and informal education systems in ways that honor what communities want for their children. This is true in higher education as well, and also in early childhood. And we need to learn from the places and spaces where amazing, transformative work is already happening. It is my hope that this theme connects to every division in SIG, and indeed every scholar in our organization. Whether you are an historian studying the horrific legacy of boarding schools for Indigenous children, or a philosopher thinking deeply about the purpose of education in a democratic society, or a learning scientist studying pedagogy and learning within the disciplines, or a quantitative methodologist thinking about how we leverage the massive new data systems that now exist and how to do so ethically, you have a contribution to make. And I suppose that's really part of the point. Like society more broadly, scholars in our field need each other to build something different. We will need to embody deep and radical collaboration, which I believe the next generation of scholars is already calling for. I'll end with this thought. The 2022 theme is about rethinking the role of our field and the nature of our research. It is about giving ourselves the permission to do our very best work and to do so from a place of respect and humility. Creating important changes in our field and in education is all of our work to do together.